Hello, and welcome to the latest in our ImpactWayv podcast series, Making an Impact. I'm Karen Talamelli, and today we will be talking about financial literacy with Nidhi Nair and Bridget Abril. Both women are currently students at the University of Connecticut and co-founders of Financial Literacy Week at UConn. I'd like to begin by pointing out that Nidhi has also been named a Schwarzman Scholar, the first from the University of Connecticut. It's quite an incredible honor and achievement. So congratulations, Nidhi.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have both of you here this morning. So could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how this initiative you created got started?
Yeah, definitely. So, hi, Karen. I am a senior at UConn, as you mentioned. I first got interested in financial literacy when I was working on my senior honors thesis, and I decided that it would be really cool to study the financial literacy rates of undergraduates at the University of Connecticut because I noticed that there was a dearth of research on the matter. There was very little research on people beyond the age of 18. And I thought that studying the financial literacy rates of people who are in college could be a good indicator of how well the public school system has served them. So I started putting out surveys that analyzed the financial literacy rates of undergraduates using like three basic questions. And I found that very few people on campus were financially literate. As of now, initial numbers show that around 38 to 42% of undergraduates are financially literate at UConn. And these results are kind of similar to what we see for undergraduates all across the state. So I reached out to Bridget and asked if we could both collaborate on a financial literacy social impact project where we can basically try to improve the rates of financial literacy and financial education on campus. And I knew her as this incredible organizer, and she's so good at planning events, and she's a great leader. So we both started working together, and that's how the project came about.
Oh, thank you. And I think you are basically validating what research is showing that it is not being taught in high schools. And I think you're emphasizing that. Bridget, and what attracted you to this initiative?
Well, I would say that Nidhi reached out to me in the summer, and the idea of getting involved in a project from a social impact standpoint, as I'm a political science major, what really interested me was the lack of, legislation encouraging students to be taught personal finance at the high school level. So that sparked my interest in this project, and also just having worked with Nidhi in the past through the Economic Society. We became fast friends last year, so I was excited to work with her again.
Oh, that's great. So your research not only identified a need, which you just pointed out, but it seems to have indicated that there was a strong desire to learn more among the students at your university.
Yes, definitely. One of the questions that we asked was what are you interested in learning more about financial literacy on campus? Would you be interested in gaining access to these kind of resources? And like an astonishing, like 92% of undergraduates who took the survey said that yes, we would be interested in learning more about financial literacy. We do want to have access to these resources. So it definitely kind of affirmed our like suspicions that people wanted more access to these resources, but they were not able to obtain them or were unaware of the institutional resources that UConn had already put in place. So we kind of felt that this would be a good opportunity for us to step in.
Oh, that's great. And you received funding to put together this financial literacy week?
Yes, Bridget and I have received up to like $6,000 from 2 to 3 different grants. Both of us worked together on the Change grant, but there were independent projects that supported our research project as well. So overall, it's gone up to $6,000.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what are some of the events that you will be discussing during Financial Literacy Week? That is such a like broad umbrella that speaks to budgeting and credit. It could be wills, living wills. What do your events cover during April 3rd through the 7th at UConn?
So, Financial Literacy Week will have 5 events, each focused on a different important topic of financial awareness, budgeting, investing, debt management, credit, and financial planning. So during each of these days, Monday to Friday, they'll have a different, topic designated for that day. And for 3 of the days, we are doing interactive events in the student union where students can stop by and visit with us for like 3 to 5 minutes and, win a prize for trying to engage in financial literacy topics. And then the other 2 days, we will have a lecture event focusing on investment and debt management.
And how has the reaction been on campus?
We found that students really want this. Just speaking to people in my other organizations, my friends, people in classes, they're really eager about this. They want to learn about financial literacy. They want to become financially literate themselves. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
Oh, that's wonderful. And is this something you feel could be replicated on other campuses across the country?
Yes, for sure. Yes, because I think that the goal of every social impact project should be to deliver like maximum results to what could be a small group of people. I don't think that the range of people matters as much. I think it's dependent on the kind of resources that you're putting out there. And I think our project is structured in such a way that we're able to give those resources to UConn students in a way in which like they don't have to spend more than 3 to 5 minutes at our booths, and they don't have to spend more than 30 to 40 minutes at our lecture events. We're trying to make sure that it is in their best interest to come and to learn, both in the long term and in the short term in terms of time management. So I definitely think that this can be replicated in other schools, and I hope it is. That would be really cool to see.
It will be, and you have things structured it in such a way that it's community involvement. Everybody is kind of taking ownership and in their own futures, which makes it easily replicated and embraced. So I think that's wonderful. Learning so much from you and your efforts here in Connecticut and others who are looking to expand financial literacy of all people. It seems like the ignorance of the effects and the repercussions of how your actions today regarding your financial future affects it by either expanding, like, the information you're giving out helps people to expand their view of their finances, or limiting your options because of that ignorance. So how are you hoping to positively affect the people who come to your booths?
That's such a good point that you raised about limiting our life path options just because we're ignorant about a few key pieces of information. I've noticed that like small information asymmetries can lead up to exponential differences between groups of individuals. Like, just for example, first generation students at UConn, right? That's 25% of the student body at UConn are first generation, which means neither one of their parents have been to a college or a 4-year educational institution. And they have so many information asymmetries between what they have learned at home and what kind of advice that their parents give them compared to other students, that they tend to fall behind after they graduate. Even though they could graduate with the same degree and the same GPA, they end up having lower lifetime earnings potential because they're not getting the same key pieces of advice from their close community members. And I think that that's kind of where Bridget and I step in, because we're hoping to give small, targeted bits of information to people so that they can bridge their gaps and it can potentially help them after they graduate as well. So thank you for bringing up that point, Karen.
Yeah, and I think that small bite size, especially if you've not really broached the subject or looked into it, it's easier to absorb and maybe be a little relatable to your life, whether it's your job, looking at a paycheck and what you do with it, budgeting, or a car payment. And you've probably touched on there are now credit cards available to you probably quite easily when you're in college, and knowing how to manage that. This could really be a good thing, but what credit card debt, what looking at interest rates, and how that is going to impact your future.
Yes, definitely. I find that my friends are most interested in learning about credit, which I think is, kind of interesting because it's such a topic that you would think a lot of people would know, but I think it speaks to the level of, financial literacy at UConn that a lot of students probably do have access to credit cards, but not a lot of students really know what credit is and what goes into credit. So that's just one example of people really being interested in this.
And it is good because building credit, people talk about bad credit, but there's a lot of benefit to building good credit. And that starts, young, when it's still manageable, and, helps whether you're starting a business or wanting to buy your first car, home, whatever. These are incredible life lessons that you are giving everyone there, which is absolutely amazing. What is like your best case scenario to achieving success and going forward to build upon Financial Literacy Week at UConn in the future?
Bridget, go ahead.
I was going to say, we are trying to target we're trying to reach a few hundred students and give them really targeted intervention and really like help them learn a few topics of financial literacy. So whether that's the same students coming to each of our events or the same group of students, attending 2 out of 3 of our events, they are 5 days a week. So we don't necessarily know how many students will be able to make all 5 of them. But I mean, my goal and our goal together is just as many students as we can teach just one beneficial aspect of, personal finance to them so that they walk away having learned something. That is just our goal. That shows that we have successfully implemented this project. If even just a few people learn one thing. So yeah, that's what I would say is our outcome for this. As well, I'm a junior, so I'm hoping in the future to replicate this project until there are more access or there is more resources for students coming into UConn. So from the high school level and at UConn, and whether that's just bringing awareness to the resources UConn already provides us that students do not know about, or just continuing our Financial Literacy Week project.
And I think that's a very achievable and wise goal. Just, in my own life, I feel wonderful if I learn one thing every day. And you could take that away, and that is, quite a wonderful measure of success, because I think that people who go to your booth, they're going to hear things that will probably last with them as much as anything else on the wonderful University of Connecticut campus, because it truly is. You're giving them an investment in their future. Do you think that it seems like, we've discussed this with other guests, the ease of managing your finances on your phone, between banking and stocks, everything is so easy, handheld. It's almost like not even real when you don't like touch your money or touch a bank statement. Do you think some of the ease and how readily available things also is a curse in itself?
I'm not as pessimistic as I've heard this take from my parents. They always bring this up where they're like, if you're not going to the bank, that means that everything's like a game to you because you're playing with things on your phone, and it's like one of those interactive games that I grew up playing. So you're just continuing that game, except you're playing with real life finances, and this could mess up your life forever. And I think that's a pessimistic take, because I think that access to these kind of resources online is a privilege for many of us. And we're so lucky that we can easily see how much money we have left in the bank just by a few clicks of the button. Like, that's something that I think that we all take for granted. And I'm very grateful to have access to those kind of resources, because it saves me time. It saves me a lot of effort. I don't have to take a drive to the bank to look at those things. And I still remember growing up, my grandmother had 16 books of budget logs that she would note down every night, and it was very cute. I loved sitting with her and going through all our bills, but we don't have to do that anymore. Now I can either itemize it on my computer, or she could just look at her bank statements, and that's a privilege that Bridget and I have that a lot of people in our families, in our parents' generation, maybe did not. So I think it's a good thing, and there are negatives, but that's why we're hosting the Financial Literacy Week. So hopefully we can fix those.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember standing in line at banks with people with bank books that just wanted to be updated.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And I never go into a bank now, even to deposit a check, which there's not a lot of checks. So, but I think that's what makes your program and those like it. If you look at it, this is not a game. It has real life consequences. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of positives if you go into it with the right mindset, or, just the education of intellect of this is real money. It's not just like gems that you're in tokens you're adding up. But I think that's the access to this is so important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But ladies, would you like any closing remarks? As this is you're really making history, both of you at UConn together. And Bridget, like you said, in your junior year, you are going to continue raising the banner for this.
Yes, that is the goal. I would also say we are really trying to reach as many students as possible, but also to spread awareness about the lack of financial literacy in general. So to follow our Instagram would be a big help in this project. It's UConn_financial_literacy. And we do post resources there to, budgeting tips about financial planning. So there is resources there to help students.
That's wonderful. Those resources can be invaluable. Well, you are certainly, we're recording this in March, Women's History Month, and it is so great to be with two women making history. It's such an honor in advance of Financial Literacy Week. You are really such leaders in this space, and I'm so grateful to have spent some time with you today.
Thank you so much for having us, Karen.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you enjoyed this program, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Hope to see you next time. Thank you so much, Nidhi Nair and Bridget Abril. Thank you.